Hi everyone, Anthony Head Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd. Hope you're doing well, and it's time for a review of the new collaborative Juice WRLD and Future project, World on Drugs. This is a new collaborative album from two of trap music's biggest voices at the moment. The king of codeine, one of the biggest rap stars of this decade, essentially a veteran at this point, Future Hendrix, and emo rap up-and-comer Juice WRLD. While both are usually druggy auto-crooners flowing their way through kind of trippy, watery beats, I'm surprised this crossover even exists. On the surface, it seems like a really odd pairing, especially when you take into account Future's flashy, macho grit, and Juice WRLD's kind of nasally, boyish voice and heartbroken lyrics. This record is 16 tracks, 49 minutes, so quite a few songs on here are on the brief side. And what this album lacks in the substance that it obviously wasn't going to have, it kind of makes up for in vibe. This thing has vibe in spades. It feels really good. It's pretty wavy, which I think is a testament to Future and Juice WRLD working together effectively on this project, as they consistently hit some pretty catchy flows over some pretty quality production. While the percussion on these tracks is pretty much par the course for most of the trap instrumentals you've heard over the past few years. You have those snappy 808 drums and the rattling triplet hi-hats. Some of the instrumentation on top of the beats, though, is kind of sticky, maybe a little unusual and sad, whether it be the Watery and Plucky guitar leads on the track Jet Lag, or the eerie and metallic clangy melodies cycling away on the track Red Bentley. There are also some wailing, sad, and melty guitar leads on the track Oxy. There are also a few cuts on here that come off kind of ballad-like. They're refreshingly melodic vocally and very harmonious instrumentally, whether that be the cut Realer and Realer or the closing song 2. Generally, what the songs on this album lack are any kind of lyrical or topical focus. Or even if they were just going to be general and just feature Juice WRLD and Future verbally riffing for a few minutes at a time, at least drop some bars that are worth remembering or are kind of funny or entertaining or gritty or something. While having lyrical substance isn't exactly the MO of this breed of hip-hop, it certainly does prevent some of the best moments on this album from being appreciated beyond just a surface level, as the lyrics on this album pretty much feature the usual suspects: brand names, money, cars, women, drugs. In theory, this is not necessarily a bad thing as long as the writing is good, or maybe Future and Juice WRLD come together as a duo to create something that makes up for the lack of lyrical memorability here, but it's just not the case. Because for every track on this thing that features a great instrumental, good flows, and a few quotables, there's at least one other song that's generic as hell, or another that's so comatose and skeletal that it's barely worth remembering, like on the track 7 AM Freestyle. And the point of this song might be for Juice WRLD and Future to sound barely alive, but it doesn't really make for an entertaining track to hear Juice WRLD and Future push it to the point where they're like in a zombie-like state and their rapping just has no fire in it whatsoever. Then there's also the song No Issue, whose instrumental and flows are so skeletal and bare that the song sounds painfully awkward because, I mean, let's admit it, Future and Juice WRLD, as much as they have some good ideas and some distinct vocal characteristics, these guys need strong beats in order to make their songs work. The song's shorty as well, very melodic, very moody, but stripped back to the point where it just feels hollow, like it could have developed a bit more instrumentally and sounded so much better. Again, I'll say Future and Juice WRLD, they don't really converge on this EP to create something that they couldn't just have made separately. The best I could say they do on the good tracks on this album is just complement each other effectively and prevent the album from going totally stale and completely tedious by just bouncing off of one another. Although that is a quality that this album loses on the handful of solo tracks on this record, like on the Future song Afterlife, which comes off like a filler cut from any number of his past records, and the so short it's basically pointless Make It Back. There are a few other Future tracks on here that have guest features from Lil Wayne and Nicki Minaj. The song Oxy is essentially Future taking that weird high-pitched raspy flow that became a huge meme off of J-Rock's King's Dead, and just basically turning that into an entire song. And admittedly, it does make it one of the most hilarious, entertaining, and quality tracks on this thing. Lil Wayne's performance on this track is especially melodic, definitely one of the more tuneful guest verses he's had in a while. But hands down, the worst track on this record is easily the title track, where Future's vocalizations are particularly bad. The song also has the dumbest, most obvious lyrics. Like, I get that you guys make druggy music, you make songs about drugs, it makes sense. It's your aesthetic. It's your thing. But I feel like this song is just beating listeners over the head with it, to the point where it's obnoxious, or that you think your listeners are so stupid that you need to make your intentions this obvious. Also, easily the worst instrumental on the entire album, with these horrid, farty synthesizers cycling in a really busy, nonsensical pattern for a good deal of the cut. Also, totally awful vocal melodies being bounced back and forth between Future and Juice WRLD. World on drugs. All that being said, though, this record does have a good handful of highlights that I like quite a bit. I just wish they were larger in number. The album starts off with the relatively strong Jet Lag and Astronauts, which features some of the most infectious flows and beats on the entire record. There is an awesome momentum to both of these songs, and Future and Juice WRLD actually create a bit of chemistry, some kinetic energy, bouncing bars off of one another, just quickly swapping back and forth. I mean, it's not the most lyrical track you're going to hear this year, but the flow and the energy between these two is electrifying. Then there's the amazingly catchy Fine China, which feels like a track that could have been off Juice WRLD's last full-length record, Goodbye and Good Riddance, with a vocal melody where he kind of cries out in his upper register, with a super infectious vocal melody and ridiculous lyrics. Shorty like $1,000 plate, fine China, tell her that she's beautiful every day, I remind her. But further down on this chorus, he says that it's her body or nobody, I refuse to compromise, so if she leaves, I'm a kill it all, she'd die. Did I say that out loud? I'm so crazy about mine. I mean, it's obvious he says those bars with a hint of self-awareness, like he's just saying, oh, I'm just being crazy, I'm just playing. But simultaneously, these are like incel bars. These are some real incel bars. This is a little bit creepy. It's kind of creepy. The song Reeler and Reeler is an oddly beautiful cut on the album, not only because of its gorgeously moody chorus, but Juice WRLD and Future also get a little introspective about their drug abuse, about the excessive lives they lead, also rapping about loved ones dying too, and lyrically they match up a little bit at one point with Juice WRLD rapping about a Balenciaga jacket that has a lean stain, so he's gonna give it away, get rid of it, give it to a friend. And Future has a Gucci shirt with a cum stain, so he just throws it away. The closing track, Hard Work Pays Off, is one of the sweetest and catchiest on the entire record. Honestly, sounds like a hit. I would potentially say it's like a song of the summer if it wasn't coming out in October. The vocal melody, the chord progression is so tried and true and familiar and warm. It feels like a loving blanket being wrapped around me by a cutie, total cutie patootie. Love some of the bittersweet lyrics on the track too, but honestly that kind of does it for highlights to me on this record. The other tracks that I mentioned earlier were really some of the lowest points here, and meanwhile the other cuts just fall somewhere in the middle. Like many of these other suddenly dropped collaborative albums from top name rappers, this thing is very much a mixed bag. It feels rushed. It's not nearly as sharp as like a Without Warning, or especially a Kids See Ghosts. Doesn't really feel all that collaborative a lot of the time, while there are some good standouts here where Future and Juice WRLD do find some cool creative overlap. For the most part, just kind of seems like both guys riffing on some very dime a dozen trap beats, with a supremely good flow, hook or instrumental popping out here and there. I'm feeling a decent 2 strong 5 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best. You're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. And please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video you can check out. Hit that up, or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, World on Drugs, forever.